Hey, how you doing? Today we're going to look at Luke chapter 20. And in Luke chapter 20, we're going to find Jesus asking three questions, mainly to the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders. The first question is actually related to what Jesus does in the previous chapter when he tosses the money changers out of the temple. And they ask the question, by what authority, what right do you have to do this? He asked the question back, tell me, does the baptism of John come from heaven or men? By what authority does he do it? Well, if they say heaven, then he said, why didn't you believe it? If it came from God, why didn't you believe him? From men, they didn't want to get in trouble with the crowd, so they said, we don't know. And Jesus answers, well, I don't know either. After that, there's a parable sandwiched between the first and the second question, the parable of the vineyard. The owner of the vineyard goes away to a long way away, a far country, and he leaves some others in charge. Well, the vineyard owner sends in the slaves, which represents the prophets, to collect the revenue or the harvest, and they decide to spurn them and kill them. Well, he sends more slaves, or more prophets are sent to Israel, and each time the same thing occurs. Finally, the vineyard owner says, I'll send my beloved son. And if I send my son, certainly they will respect him. But they say to themselves, why don't we kill him as well? And then we can retain the vineyard, we can retain the whole inheritance. The vineyard represents Israel, and if we look at Psalm 118, it says, the stone has been rejected by men. The second question then is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? And remember what Jesus says, I'll just quickly remind you, render unto Caesar what is Caesar and unto God what is God. They were simply trying to test him, and once again, Jesus averts the test by not giving them an answer. The third and final question he asked is actually to what is called the Sadducees, and I'd like to read it to you. It's right here. It says, and they question him, Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies and has a wife, and he is childless, his brother should marry that wife and raise up his children. Could you imagine that? And if there was 7 brothers, and all 7 of them married the same woman, who would she be married to in heaven? And Jesus said, the sons of this age marry are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy to attain that age and the resurrection from the dead, neither marry are given in marriage. In other words, there's no marriage in heaven. Yeah, I let you contemplate that, and we can talk about that later. Finally, in the last part of that chapter, Jesus asked them a question, and the question goes like this. How is it that they say that the Messiah or the Christ is David's son? How can that be? In Psalm 110, it says that David calls the Messiah Lord. Here's the question that he asked them. If David calls him Lord, how is the Christ or the Messiah his son? Here's another thing I would like you to contemplate, and we can discuss it later. Always good to see you. I'll see you again next time.